Hey everybody, welcome to Watches with Dennis, and I am back with my Saturday live streams. This time it was a requested topic. Wasn't I don't remember his phrase as a requested topic, but that's definitely how I took it, which is wanting to know my opinion on the new Omega updates that they've done. They released several new, four actually, iterations of the Speedmaster Dark Side of the Moon, which I think the original one came out around 2013 or so. So I mean, they've been with us for quite a while at this point. And there are now, I guess, seven variants, but they're really that has to do with strap options. So there are actually four different sort of cased dial configurations that they presented us with, all obviously in the Speed Master lineup. So that will be the focus of today. Don't know if it will run a full hour, but just as well because I have some other things that I need to work on today. So before I get started, let me go ahead and greet the chat. For those of you who are watching live, those of you who are watching the recording, feel free to leave a comment on anything about the video. I do go back and read those. So Matthew Paul, good morning to you. Well, morning my time. Curious to see what people think of these being the topic of today, the Dark Side of the Moon Speedmasters. I like the concept, but some are just difficult to read. Maybe it's me. It's not. Look forward to the stream. It's going to vary depending on which model we talk about, of course, but there's a little bit of a spoiler teaser for you there. Kevin, good morning. Hope things are going well for you. And Koji, thank you for being a 99-cent club member. I do appreciate that. If only you knew the power of the coaxial movement. Yes, yes. Will Disney come after me for my thumbnail? Probably not, since Vader's face is the Omega symbol. I almost didn't do that. I almost just had him force lifting the, I'm making it look like he's a little waiter of the, well, you all saw it. Anyway, I thought, no, I don't want to. I need to creatively reinterpret this a little bit more to make it very clear it cannot in any way be confused with actual Star Wars. So that's why the additional Omega logo, which I then changed to a different color as well, replaced his helmet. But there's a little bit of the sausage making for you. Not wearing an Omega today. I actually don't own any Omegas at this time. This is my Parmigiani Fluye Tonda PF Micro Rotor watch because I wore it yesterday and I didn't feel like getting out another watch this morning. So in terms of other housekeeping, no video since the last live stream, not surprising. I still haven't put a full week of wearing on the Swatch because I only wear it situationally. So that still needs to be worn more before I'm going to do any videos with it. Depending on my mood when that might happen, because I don't think that's most of my reviews don't get any views anyway. So it's not exactly a hot topic thing, but at some point I'll probably put something together about it. All right. But today we're going to put something together about Dark Side of the Moon. So let me go ahead and show you. This is an article from Hodinkee. I have a link in the show notes to it, but I also have a link in the show notes to, I'm not seeing all my options. There we go. I minimized my I work my windows and I'm not using the full screen. Let me put it that way. So I couldn't see all my controls. So now I can. So now I can just put myself in a teeny little corner and let you see this. So there's a link to the Hodinkee article about these watches. I also have a link to Omega's website, which will jump you to this page. And I have pages loaded up of the four versions myself, but you'll be able to go to their Dark Side of the Moon collection and you can see the older Apollo 8 one here. But all the ones that are labeled new on the site, these are all the new ones. And the gray side of the moon counts as Dark Side of the Moon. They treat them in the same category. So you'll see that there are four variants, or there are four models, but there are seven variants because it's like the standard one comes also on a canvas strap, or you can get it on rubber. Same with the like black one, and same with the gray side. But the one black with the red hand only comes on the one strap. That's why it's an odd number, even though we have an even number of cases. But anyway, here's a close up so you can get a good look at the various watches. But I want to go ahead and do some background, what I was able to pull up through of course, the power of Google and AI. So again, I already mentioned that the Dark Side of the Moon first launched around 2013. Differences since then, that's still basically the same design. So in terms of sizing, all of these models that you see on the screen are 44.25 millimeters in diameter and 50 millimeters lug to lug. All of them are. Now, thickness wise, they are not all identical. Most of them are just over 15 millimeters thick. However, this one that I'm trying to spin my little mouse symbol around, the gray side of the moon, is actually thinner. It's just under 13 millimeters thick. So that one is the only one that's significantly reduced. However, all of this is smaller than the original Dark Side of the Moon, which was quite hefty when it came out. I think it was over 16. Yes, according to what I've seen, 16.1 millimeters thick, which is, I know these are chronographs, but that's a chonker of a chronograph. Um, Different techniques, of course, are used now depending on which particular one we're looking at. And then the movements. Back originally when the Dark Side came out, it was powered by the Caliber 9300. That was an automatic chronograph. It depends a bit on which one we're talking about. It's either going to be the 9900, the 9908, or in the case of the gray side, the 3869. So we're talking things like meta certification and other improvements on a number of these watches. So, all of that background out of the way, let me go ahead and let's sort of go through them one by one. I think it's easier for me to use the Omega site for this. So, again, I've told you I've preloaded. So, here you go. This is what I guess we would consider the standard model version. Actually, I have a little video if you would like to. Would you guys like to see the video? Maybe I'll just keep the video. I hope it loops. Up in the background here. So this one is what we call the dark white version of it. You know, the reference numbers are tremendously long. I'm not going to read the reference numbers. You guys can look those up. I gave you the link to Omega. I realized that I have to read 4 different periods, and I was just like, never mind, I'm not going to do it. But okay, so this is one of the larger ones, are the one that isn't thinner. So technically 15.09 millimeters thick. 44.25 millimeters in diameter, 50 millimeters leg to leg, as I noted. This is a 9900 caliber movement. That's a 60-hour power reserve, meta certified automatic chronograph. Date at the 6 o'clock, as you can see. This is a 2 subdial system. So you have hours and minutes for the chronograph at the 3 o'clock position, and your small seconds is running over at the 9 o'clock. And so the way this is these are all ceramic. All the cases are ceramic. That's the thing about the Dark Side collection. So this is a black ceramic case. The dial is ceramic, black ceramic as well. And you can see it has various accents, both in silver and in white, depending on what we're talking about with the watch. White gold hands, white gold indices. And so I would say that this one is attempting to be, I feel, the most legible of the Dark Side collection, of the new 2025 Dark Side Speedmasters. Those accents really go a long way. The white loom clearly makes all of the hour markers stand out, as you would expect. The hands are easy to read. The white gold contrasts quite nicely against the black ceramic dial. And so overall, I think, especially if you don't have a lot of watches and you're looking for, I guess, a go anywhere, do anything sort of ceramic, and you want a chronograph, I really like this one. One of my biggest issues that I have with the Speedmaster in general, and it's just a taste thing, it's not like a technical issue, is I don't really like the traditional tri-register look on it. Mileage varies. Like if we move away from the Speedmaster Professional and we start talking First Omega in space, because of the hand shape and all the rest of it, I actually really like that watch quite a bit. But for the more traditional Speedmasters, I actually prefer when we go with the 2-register approach rather than the 3-register approach. I don't know. It just, for me, in some ways, I think of that more as a racing chronograph style, but I just think aesthetically it works really well. And so here, this one versus what Matthew had noted at the beginning about the difficult to read, I don't think this one is difficult to read. I think there's a case to be made against all the rest of them, but I do think this one, this dark/white version, is pretty legible. And so I think it's a safe play out of the 4. Okay. So we got that one. Now let's jump to the gray side. We'll take a break. We'll do the more colorful one, though I use that term very, very loosely. And since that video stuff seemed to work pretty well, I'm going to go ahead and do that for this. So the gray side of the moon is the same lug to lug, 50 millimeters. It's the same diameter, 44.25 millimeters. This is the thin one. Thin is relative, but for a chronograph, it's thin. It's just under 13 millimeters. It's 12.97 from what I saw on the Omega website, because this one is powered by a different chronograph movement. It's the 3869. Now, this is a manual wind, not an automatic, so that's part of it. And the reason why, we're going to deal with another manual wind here in a bit, but the reason why this one is driven by the 3869 and not the 9908 is because this is a tri-register configuration. You see the 3 subdials on the lower half of the, well, lower third, 2/3 of the dial. The more traditional, I would say, our format that we think of when we think of Speedmasters, because we tend to think of Speedmaster professionals. Okay. So power reserve is a lot lower on the 3869. It's not 60 hours. It's about 50. So just be aware of that. Now, the approach here, obviously, again, the case is ceramic, but it's not black this time. They've gone with a gray case, and gray is my favorite color. So I do have some sympathy for that. And Omega has a very nice gray. Like I really like their gray dials, and I think this case looks very, very good. Um, they've got this sort of skeletonized movement approach where you're seeing the lunar surface, and you also on the back of the movement see the bits of the moon it looks like moon surface on some of the bridges and stuff. You can kind of get a glimpse there. I'll go ahead and give you some of the still photos at this point so you can see better what I mean. But you see how the bridge work here is done, and I like how much of the you can see with this bridge approach. I do like this bridge approach. I think it looks really interesting for this style of watch. The dial itself is also trying to achieve this lunar surface look. How do they do that? Laser ablation. Another thing that Omega has been doing a lot more of, and I think laser ablation looks really impressive. I think the Omega World Timers look great with the laser ablation. This one might be my least favorite overall, though. Why? Skeletonized. It's the skeletonized version of the watch. Also, this of the four is the most expensive. This is about $16,400. The one we just talked about, this black white one, is the cheapest at $15,700. So the range is within $1,000 for all four of these. And for comparison purposes, the prior gen I think sells for about $14,400. So we've moved up, not what, 9-10% since the prior generation. But back to the gray one. So the skeletonization, especially on the dial side with what they've done over here towards the 7, 8, 9 o'clock position, I don't really care for. But those who have watched my channel for a while know I'm not a big fan of skeletonization. So even though I like the look of the movement that they've done here better than pretty much any of the other ones, I'd say all of the other ones that are on today's docket to be discussed, I think this is a really interesting idea and very much embracing. They got the fun. The moon is essentially gray quote, which was what Jim Lovell's I don't know how to say his name. I think it's Jim Lovell's quote. There on the back is a nice little Easter egg for fans of the lunar missions. But anyway, it's just overall, it's my least favorite, mostly because of the skeletonization, but also the fact that we've gone with the tri-register approach, which I already just told you guys, I greatly prefer the 2-register subdial layout. Koji has commented and said, legibility and price aside, these are visually really attractive to me. Again, outside of this one, and this one has things, the gray side of the moon has things that I think are pretty interesting. Legibility ain't strong on this one, though, either, because the hands are so gray, as you can see. White washes out more against gray in general, usually not a big deal. However, with all the ablation of the moon also getting into those lighter shades, like when you look up around the 1 and 2 o'clock position, it starts to blend a little bit more than I like. I get what they're going for. They want it to feel like the lunar surface. I do think they achieve that, but it does come at a price, and I think the price is legibility. This is not the least legible watch, and for a watch with skeletonized elements, this is exceedingly legible. There are a lot of brands that do terrible work on skeletonization. It's almost as if they don't care that you can read the watch at all. Omega has clearly tried to make the watch readable. So that's one aspect that I didn't much care for on this particular one. But there is one that is less legible, and that's the one we're going to go into right now. So I don't know how exactly to describe this one. I guess what maybe the black is what I've seen. AI summarized it as the black one, which makes sense because there's a lot of black on black. But this is sort of the look I think of when I think of Dark Side of the Moon also. So it's in a way the prototypical concept. But this version, $16,100. So it's in between the two that we've already talked about. The sizing is exactly like the first one, the black-white one we talked about. So the 44.5 millimeter diameter, the 15 millimeter thickness, the 50 millimeter lug to lug. This one, just like the black-white one we talked about, or the dark-white, or however we want to call it, is driven by the 9900 movement, but it is a black edition of the movement. So I'm going to stop the video here for a moment and let you take a look. Now, decoration wise, because it is an automatic movement, there's not a whole lot to see. I the spiral like seashell look that Omega does is very different than a lot of other brands. I don't care for it strongly, but I'm also generally not buying watches based off of the style of finish that they do. But I do want to point out that they did go ahead and do this sort of blackened look. They blackened the rotor, they blackened the main plate. And for comparison purposes, it's kind of, once I zoom in on Omega's website, it moves with the mouse. That's why you're seeing me be janky with it. But there was a shot there of the video, but let me go ahead and show you. This is what the movement normally looks like. So this is a normal 9900 movement that's in the dark white version. But if we go with the black version, they committed to the bit is the point. So they fully blacked it out. Likewise, the dial is fully blacked out. So as you can see here, it's got an interesting sort of frosted look. The case is black ceramic. The dial is a matte black ceramic dial. We did have a ceramic dial on this one, the dark white. I know I'm bouncing around a lot, but I think, hey, we're trying to compare. So you can see this one has the shiny, glossy sort of black ceramic dial, but they actually matted it for this. That's why it's got that almost like a pebble texture. I actually really like the matte black look. I think it suits the watch very, very well. Blackened indices. The hands are blackened. Everything's black print. You can see the Omega, the Speedmaster, the chemical composition of the ceramic, the coaxial, the master chronometer. All of it's in black, elevated, but in black. So overall, it's extremely stealth. And in one way, it is I think the coolest looking one that they came out with. I don't think they had photos of this one loomed. And I bet loomed, it's probably quite legible, assuming the loom is bright. But again, you have to really want a stealth look because this is very, very, very hard to read. Even again, compared to the gray side of the moon, this thing here, the gray side, is shockingly legible. I think the video makes it. They've done things to try and have it catch the light in certain ways and stuff. It's not completely unreadable. I don't want to say that. And what I've seen when Omega's done other things that are kind of blacked out like this, they pull it off. I would think surprisingly well versus a lot of other brands end up doing. So I think it looks good for what it's trying to go for. I would never buy this one. It's just way too dark. It's just way too dark for me. But embracing dark side of the moon, like if that thing is what you want to celebrate, then this is definitely what, this I think is the one that's most like what the label on the tin says, to try and put an end to my sort of rambling nature to it. So I think it looks very, very cool, but it's also very much not my style. So anyway, that one though, I think is what most people will think of when they hear dark side of the moon. So let's see. Trap Vision, good morning. Hope things are going well for you. Koji, tactical movement. Well, all right. Like yeah, I mean, whatever they might brand the movement as. I actually do greatly prefer this blacked out look of the movement to the regular 9900 that we see in the dark white version. But that's just because the machine finish spiral pattern, just on a shiny, I don't know what this is, probably not rhodium, but maybe it is. I just, again, I've had it. It looks fine, but it looks like every other Omega. The whole watch stands out. If you want to, it's stealth, but it's also, it feels, everything about it's so different. And I also think that, incidentally, I haven't talked about the straps, but the sort of the lunar surfacing on the strap is a very cool touch on these rubber straps. But yeah, it looks really cool. I just, ultimately I try to imagine myself wearing it. And I just think I wouldn't grab it very much, except if I thought I was going to be outside in the sun all the time or something, because again, I have a few other watches that I can't read very well, and I just don't get them out. And a lot of them I've sold, but that's just my approach. Trap says he likes the all black version. The aesthetics give off space equipment for Space Force personnel. Sort of vibes, Space Force vibes. I can see it. I can see it. In some ways, though, because of the laser ablation, I personally feel that the gray side feels more like the moon to me. I get it. It's not really the dark side. So there is that. In a way, it feels a little weird to include the gray side of the moon in with the dark sides, but the they put it in the. I mean, hey, Hodinky put it in the same, and it's on Omega's page of Dark Side of the Moon. So they're counting, even though they put in red gray sides, just like they put this Apollo 8 in as a dark side. It's almost like they treat the ceramic Speedmasters as dark sides as a general rule. Maybe not if they put one in a bright dial. I don't, I don't know the rules that Omega plays by, but they play by something. I will note, underachieving watch collector. Thank you for joining in the live stream, by the way. When I think of Dark Side of the Moon, it isn't Omega, it's Pink Floyd. Yeah. And I thought about maybe doing a poster, but what poster do you do, like for my thumbnail for the thing? What would I do? I'm going to do Wish You Were Here. But the guy on what I'm going to do, I'm going to have the watches on fire, and then everyone's going to think that I don't like them and I want them to burn or something. And it was already tricky enough using Vader, but Trap Vision says, in addition, I'm wondering how many affordable brands homage this model. Pagani Design has probably fine-tuned the copier for this one. Achieving a lot of the look, probably, I would say probably. Do they do other materials though? Are we talking, this is just they're gonna PVD some steel? Because I don't know enough about Pagani to know if they would ever actually. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they're not going to actually give you a ceramic watch. So, given that, they might be able to make a relatively, especially of the black, that one probably could be relatively easily achieved. But as soon as you flip it over, I don't know if they're going to go the trouble of blacking out the movement and stuff. So if they were to clone one, I'm going to guess it would be the dark white, because I think that one's probably the easiest to try and get the look of. But I don't know. I've actually never handled a Pagani myself, so hard for me to say. But what I can say is there is one more Dark Side of the Moon we have not talked about. This one. And in a lot of ways, this one actually is my favorite. So I saved it for last. So what are we going to call this one? We'll call it AI wanted to call it the Black Red, which makes sense. Now, like the Gray Side of the Moon, this one is manual wind. However, the movement, I'm bouncing around, but I want to show it. I want to show again. So this is the 9908 movement. It's a different mechanical movement because this is sorry, I went to the wrong one, because the Black Red is a 2-register watch, as we've talked about, and the gray side is a 3-register. So they're using the 3869. You see, the 3869 I think is a better looking movement because this structure with the multiple bridges lets you appreciate some of the chronograph aspects of the watch, setting aside whether or not you like that they went ahead and did ablation and tried to make a lunar landscape looking set for the bridge work. Yeah, love it or hate it, it's unique, and at least you can appreciate the chronograph aspects of it. This you cannot, because they have gone. This isn't even a 3/4 plate. This is like a 4/5 plate. Not a big fan of the manual wind look with this, but again, I don't buy watches based off of the movements as a general rule in terms of their decoration, not as a first priority. But I like the spiraling that they do to take, like, again, I think it's more interesting than their automatic watches and how they do their spiral pattern. But and I love 3/4 plate. I'm all about German watches, but this one, especially because it's a chronograph. It's just, okay, so you can see the column wheel barely. Chronographs are so cool. I mean, even the Seagull movement is like in the in the Seagull watches is so interesting to look at. It's like if you have a mechanical chronograph, it's one where I really want to see a lot of the work so you can actually watch it while you push the plungers. I just think that's one of the fun things about it. But that's the me thing. So anyway, this is the 9908. So it's manual wind, obviously meta certified. We're at the 60-hour power reserve, like the other automatics that we talked about. The black is at 60 hours. The dark white's at 60 hours. Again, the gray side's at 50. So there's a difference there. Sizing, though, even though this is a manual wind, this is no slimmer than the black. It's still 15.09 millimeters thick. All the other specifications are the same as well: 44.25 millimeters diameter, 50 millimeter lug to lug. So all these watches are not ideal for smaller wrist sizes. 50 is not bad. Many men will be able to execute the watch without it overhanging, but but it does depend. It's 50 starting to get up there in a space where some people are uncomfortable. So I do wanted to note that. Obviously, in this situation, we've still yet again got a black ceramic case. All of them have black ceramic cases except for the gray side for obvious reasons. The dial in this instance is black, but it's got red accents on it. So I'm going to quit using the video so you can get a better look at that. So here you can see we've kind of gone with the dark, dark look. We've blacked out the hands. We've blacked out the indices. The loom spaces are blacked out. But key differences. Speedmaster in red, running chronograph, or the chronograph seconds is in red. The Omega logo is clearly visible because it's in gray. Also, the two subdials are easily read, as are all the other markings in between the darkened hour markers, because they're basically done in either gray or white. It's hard for me to tell. Jumping back to the dark, dark, you'll see how they fully stealthed everything, all of this, all the markers, all the words, all of it's basically the same shade of black. Here, they've made it more legible. Is it as legible as the dark white? Absolutely not. The dark white has some very stark whiteness to it that makes it, I think this is very, very readable. This one, not as much, but I like this one more. I think the matte dark dial looks better than the more shiny glossy dial. So we still get the matte look of the dark dark, but it's readable. I'm going to put these all on the same image shot so you can kind of see me bounce through them. But I'll go to the Hodinkee one so you can see them there. So this one, the black red, is actually my favorite, and 16,100 is the same price as the black black. So again, pricing wise, most expensive is the gray gray, 16,400. Least expensive is the dark white, which is 15,700, and then these two are $16,100. The only thing I really don't like about the black red one is I don't like that it's exactly the same thickness as these other two, even though it's a manual wind movement. If you don't have the rotor, there's not really, in my mind, an excuse. I know what the excuse is, but in my mind, there's not really an excuse that you didn't make the watch thinner. The reason why, of course, is that they're using the same exact case for all three of these watches, and Omega wasn't about to spend money to make a thinner one. So it's frustrating to me because as a manual wind, you had an opportunity. In fact, this one with the tri-register is a manual wind watch, and they were able to get it to 12.97 millimeters. So it's over 2 millimeters thinner than these other three. And I respect that. I think that's a pretty good size for that watch. So just one of those things where I thought it was interesting. So again, we've got these four. They're very similar in a lot of ways, but they've got some key differences. And I just thought it was pretty interesting. So whoever had suggested this, thank you for suggesting me covering these, because I didn't put together an episode when they first came out, but I went back and looked at them and I thought, wow, actually there's sort of almost, as long as you like something about the general designs of the Speedmaster, and I'm not, as I've noted, I'm not a huge Speedmaster, especially Moonwatch Speedmaster fan. But it's pretty hard to not be able to find at least one that you think was decent, that you could maybe see yourself wearing. Now, that saying aside, some people, they're going to be too big for them. Like, they can't wear them because they're going to be too big in all instances. But I mean, if my Cliff Notes version is if you want something that's easy to read, I'm almost calling this the base model because it's the most affordable one. But this dark white one is the choice. It's the choice. If you like the Moonwatch, like as a general concept, you might lean to gray side for the tri-register approach. Also, if you're really, really into the moon, the laser ablation stuff there is a big compelling thing. And also, if you hate thick chronographs, saving 2 millimeters on the chronograph in the gray side is another compelling thing. It's harder to read, but not impossible to read. Then if you want to embrace the full dark side, like all the way, the whole stealth aspect of it completely appeals to you, here you go. You go ahead and you get the dark, dark one. But if you like a lot of the stealthy aspects to it, but you want it to be legible and have more playfulness, you would go with the dark red one. Also, another thing I didn't mention that I really like about the dark red one is no date. You've got a date on the other two dual registers, but not here. You don't have the date window. Now, Omega's date window is completely inoffensive, and they've done a very nice, like it's color matched on the dark white, and on the dark they fully stealthed it. Totally looks, it's 6 o'clock position. It's like basically impossible to hate their date window. But if you don't want a date, then here you go. You got one that you don't. Likewise, the gray side doesn't have a date. But for a dual register to not have a date, there is a choice here. So I guess if I were to rank them in the order I would be interested, I would say dark red would be the one I would want, followed by the dark white, followed by the fully stealthed out one, and I would go with the skeleton. The skeletonization and stuff, just it's my least favorite. Easily is my least favorite. So a gray side would be my last pick. But that's my rank. So I don't know, but those of you who are watching live, if you have thoughts on which ones you like the most or least, I'll go ahead and see those. But otherwise, I've covered everything I planned to talk about today. Again, we didn't spend a lot of time on the Hodinkee article because I had the Omega site loaded up. But again, there's a link in the show in the video description. Sorry, I almost called it show notes. In the video description, if you want to go and read the article, because it's got a summary of all of the stats. Likewise, Omega's got them on their website now, and I have a link in the video description to this. So you can go and you can click on these and look at a lot of these photos, and they've got video for all of them. Likewise, you can. I only showed you the rubber strap ones, but they're most of them come on canvas as well. If you would rather have a canvas strap, but if you want to know the features and stuff, you can just go here and go to like technical data, and it'll give you the basic breakdown. These all have 50 meters of water resistance, by the way, so pretty standard for the Speedmaster there, and 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. I think is standard to all of them as well, given the case diameters. So that's basically what I had for you guys. So let me see what you all had to say about all of this. Trap says, that's clearly my favorite, and I'm assuming your favorite is my favorite, the dark red, because it is objectively the right answer. It's not objectively the right answer. It's the right answer, guys. Come on. Look at that. It's fun. And people say, I don't like fun watches. I do. You just have to have them mostly black, and then just add in some accents are great. Like this one, I like this one so much because it conveys, like, you look at this and you were to tell someone this is a dark side of the moon watch, they're going to look at how dark the case is, the dial is, the hands are, and they're going to go, that totally makes sense to me. But they can still read it. Granted, with the dark one, it'd be like, this is the dark side, and they'll be like, I know exactly what that is, because that, like, the only thing they could do to make this darker was somehow do the whole dial, hands, and everything in Vanta black. And then you would lose yourself into the darkness of it. But I would shudder to imagine how expensive that would be, given how expensive the Mosers are that use Vanta black. But it could be darker. It could be darker. This would be the only one that you probably have to do a lot of explanation to. But even the dark white one, I think if you might have to explain it a little more, because from a distance, it's gonna seem like I don't want to say a regular Speedmaster, that it's a 2-register, only 2 subdials. That's not what most people think of when they think of Speedmaster, even though, incidentally, just as an FYI, if you like this dual register look, there are a number of them that Omega makes that you might want to go around and explore if you're not into the whole dark side thing, but you're like, wow, I never really knew that they did stuff that didn't have the 3, 6, and 9 with subdials. It's like, actually, I think those are the better looking ones. And I would encourage you to explore Omega's website. A lot of those, if you want to buy them used, by the way, I have to be careful. I want to think, it's been a long time since I looked. They tend to discount more. You tend to be able to get a better value off of them. They don't retain as well because they're less popular. Let me put it like that. But anyway, so yeah, this for me, absolutely. I like this picture from Hodinkee because it doesn't include the gray side, because that's the one I feel is like the odd man out. But we all have our own taste on that. Jason, good morning. Hope things are going well for you out in Aruba. Underachieving said, if any one of my watch collector friends buys these watches, I'll say, great looking moonswatch. Why do you have to be mean to your friends? They might not be your friends after you do that to them. I don't. I could kind of see it, kind of. However, maybe it's just having handled some Omegas, and you guys know I'm not an Omega apologist in the slightest, but there is a quality to their watches that's pretty impressive. And one of the things I really liked about the Speedmaster, for it. Just ended up being too bulky for me. But the thing about the Speedmaster that, the Seamaster that I used to know, Seamaster 300M, is if you're someone that associates luxury with heft, that watch felt expensive. Even though it wasn't my most expensive watch, that watch felt like it just felt substantive in every way. Far more substantive than my Explorer 2 does. So it's interesting. Omega is very interesting. I'm trying to remember if I don't think I've ever handled one of their, and actually I'm almost positive I've never handled one of their ceramic watches. Now, I've been curious about ceramic, but I've never bought one. I've known some people that have bought Rados, and I've also heard of some people that have broken the Rados. And Rados and Swatch Group. So Swatch Group has worked with ceramic for a long time, but outside of dials, I've not really had anything in ceramic. And so I do still have sort of this base concern about taking a chunk off of my watch, even though I don't generally smack my watches around that hard. It's like, what if I try and buckle it and I drop it on a tile floor? Is the watch going to chip? Or I still have these, but it's not an Omega thing. This is a ceramic kind of just fear in general, because I associate ceramic with bowls. And I still just think that if I drop it, it's going to break, and I can't just get that nick filled or polished out. The case is like perma damaged. I would need a new case. But it probably wouldn't stop me from buying one of these if I loved them. I don't really love any of these enough that I would, like, if you were to ask me, Dennis, are you going to get any of these for dark side releases, or would you rather get a first Omega in space? I would still get the first Omega in space. Like, I like that one more for a variety of reasons, but that's just because I'm not super duper into the blacked out look. But it's a more conservative look, and I do tend to prefer more conservative watches. It's just first Omega in space is also a very conservative watch. So one of those things. Let's see. Yeah, Trap says, if I had to choose any of them, the black red would be the one. Underachieving says, I like the dark white. I need legibility. It definitely is easily the most legible. I do think they did a good job on the dark red to make it readable. It's like, this is readable. This is legible. So that'd be kind of how I would define it. Trap says, Jumbo Shop will have a more approachable price for Omega. Yes. In fact, that is where did I get my Seamaster? Yeah, I did. I got my Seamaster from a Jumbo Shop. Yeah. Yeah, it'll probably be I would say at least a year will be my guess for you guys. Maybe shorter, given how the watch market is right now. Before Jumbo Shop will probably get these in, and they might not get all of them in at once. I would expect the dark white, the most legible one, will probably show up first, because it's the most affordable. Omega will probably assume they'll sell the most of them. Dealers will have more than they end up wanting, and they'll end up kind of pushing them out. But it just depends. But normally I assume at least a year. It's not always the case. Actually, that the Oris I mentioned back in Watches and Wonders, the yellow dial pointer big dates that they had that I said I liked, Joma's got those now, the yellow ones. They don't have all the colors, I don't think, but the yellow one is there. Probably because that one, well, one, it's Oris. They always make too many watches. And two, the yellow is a color that's probably alienating to a lot of people because it's so bright. So just one of those things. All right. Well, I'm going to call it then. I am hosting some people over later today, so I need to start cleaning the whole house, fun things. So that's what my weekend's going to turn into. But at least I got to talk watches a little while with you guys. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this particular episode. Always can leave a comment if there's a topic area you'd like me to cover during live streams. Otherwise, I just randomly kind of pick one or cover some of the newer releases that come out. I will plan to be back next Saturday to do some sort of show on something. So hopefully you'll all be able to make it then. And until next time, I'll talk to y'all later. See ya.